Hi, my name is Chad Warner. I'm going to show you how to make homemade pizza dough. And it's really basic. There isn't much as far as ingredients, just flour, salt, yeast, water. I put a little oil, and I use this dry malt diastatic powder, not required, but I tend to use that nowadays. So I do it all by weight. This is a New York style pizza, and it's I do it by weight. So I'm gonna go just start with the high gluten flour. You want it like a bread flour, and just measure it out. So I've got it on the scale. I do everything in grams if I can because it's more accurate and gets consistent results. I guess I'm a little picky about that. So I've got my flour, and then I'm going to add to that so 506 grams here. I've got a post where I have the recipe, so I'm not going to go over exactly the amounts. You can look at that post. So I'm going to do the water here. And just watch my weight as I go. And I know about how many ounces I need, so that's what I measured when I put the water here in this. So I know I'm going to be about close. Really close. Okay, close enough. So, and that water, since I'm going to do an overnight raise on it, it doesn't really need to be a warm temperature or anything. It's fine. So I don't need it to raise really quickly. So I've got the water. Now I'm going to add yeast. And if you do a lot of bread baking, you'd be kind of surprised at how little amount of yeast you need when you're doing it overnight. So it's just going to be 1.7 grams here. So, which it doesn't, my scale doesn't measure 1.7, so I get close to it. Okay. And what I like to do at this point is kind of just get it mixed together. Before you add the salt or the oil, the flour will get better hydrated by, make a mess. It'll get better hydrated by mixing it without the salt. The salt will inhibit the yeast, and the oil will kind of prevent the water from mixing well with the flour. So I'm just going to do it to the point that it gets mixed up. That's probably good enough, and then I'm just going to let it sit there for 5 minutes. So we'll be back here in a few minutes. Okay, so I let it sit for 1 to 2 minutes, not the 5 minutes. So it sat, and then I'm gonna while I was waiting, I measured out my kosher salt, which I'm told that the kosher salt just works better. It doesn't. What's critical is the weight, so you get the right amount of salt. And different types of salt weigh differently, so just make sure you get the right weight. And so I added the salt, and I add the oil here, and the malt, diastatic malt. And I'm going to let that mix for another minute or so. While that mixes, I'll put some oil on the counter because I'm just going to take and put that dough on the counter. put a little on there and spread it out. About the size I need for the dough, so it won't stick. Use the elevator music. One thing I'll do too in between, when I've got time, I'll only need one of these today, so I'll just take and oil these up and spread it out. Good time when your hands are all oiled anyway. Spread it on the sides here, because it will raise up and you don't want to stick into the sides. Yeah, that's probably good enough. What's going to do most of the work is the yeast. It's going to do the work of breaking down the flour, and we'll just what we're doing is a stretch and fold technique. It works really good for really wet kind of doughs, really sticky ones. So you're just going to create a ball here, and as you do this, the stretching and the folding will align the gluten, and you're trying to create, oops, I've got some in here, so trying to create a good strong dough that will stretch well, so it'll work well for pizza. And we'll just let this sit here for 5 minutes, and we'll come back after 5 minutes and I'll show you. We're going to stretch and fold it a few more times here, and then each time it's going to get smoother, and at the end we should have it really smooth dough, and it should start forming these air pockets. That's how you know you've got a good dough. So I'll come back in 5 minutes. Okay, we've waited 5 minutes, and now I'm going to do the stretch and fold. If you want to come in here, so kind of just flatten it out and then pull it from one side and then the other two sides, and then I'm going to reform the ball, and you can see it's already starting to smooth out. And just kind of get it nice and tight here, pinching this together, and then just put it back down there, and we're going to do that 2 more times. So we'll come back in another 5 minutes. Okay, here I go again. I'm going to do the stretch and fold. So just kind of flatten it out, hold it over, pull the sides over, and then we're just going to stretch it around and make a ball. It's already getting more smooth here. We'll do this one more time. Just want to make it tight. Stick it on there and wait another 5 minutes. Okay, this is going to be the last time we're gonna do the stretch and fold again. So do this. It's already getting pretty strong here. It's smooth, so don't really need to do it again. So you see there, look at that. Nice bubble already in there. Alright, so we'll wait another 5 minutes, and then we're going to take and separate it out into individual dough balls, and we'll form those. I'll show you how we do that. And we're going to just put them in the fridge for the rest of the night, and it'll be ready for tomorrow. Okay, so now we're ready to divide this up into dough balls. I use this here to try to, this is going to be 3, so I'm going to try to cut it into even thirds, and I never get it right, but I get it close. So I'll take and weigh it. It should be around 15, one of these is going to be, so that one's over, that one's under. Should I just take it? That's probably about right. 15.3. Yep, those are close enough. So now I'm going to take these individual ones and I'm going to do the same thing here and just form them into a tight ball and pinch the center here so that it comes together, and then I usually just go like this. Try to make it as round as possible. Something like that. You can see these little air pockets, and you know it's all smooth, and you know that's good. So put that in there. And then do the same for these others. Just kind of pinch it. So you want to stretch it around. So you want a really tight surface there. That'll allow it to raise and maintain strength. So there's my second one. I'm gonna do that one more time. And usually I take, so I got an air bubble there. Once we take these out, we're not going to want to pop those air bubbles. Try to minimize what they call degassing of the dough. For the pizza, you want those big air bubbles in there. My kids call them bat caves. Once they're cooked, and you got those big air bubbles in there. So that was a little, yeah. Okay. Usually I'll take and spray these with cooking spray just to keep them moist, but I don't have that, so I'm just gonna just roll it in the oil here so that it coats it. Okay, so if you had a plastic bag, you would put a little oil in the plastic bag, get it spread around inside the gallon bag, and then put the dough ball in there, and that would be good to go. So that's it. Now I'll go and put that in the oven, or tomorrow I'll do that. But I'll put it in the fridge. It's going to sit overnight, and the gluten gets broken down by the yeast, creates sugars, and it the longer you let it sit in the fridge, the better I think it tastes. If you can let it sit a day, 2, maybe even 3 days, it'll taste really good. You want to take it out a couple hours before you are planning on making your pizza. That gives it a chance to warm up to room temperature. It'll raise a little bit more and become really soft and easy to stretch. If you try to stretch it when it's still cold, it just isn't going to stretch. So that's why you need some time to warm up. And if you have any questions on how to do this, if anything was unclear, just post a comment and I'll try to reply. And let me know how it goes. Send me some pictures of your pizza, and I'll be excited to see how well it turns out for you. Thanks. Okay, so I've let these rest in the fridge for not quite 24 hours here, and I'll show you what it looks like at this point. Okay, so they've spread out a little. They've grown quite a bit since I put them in, and I'll show you what they look like in a couple hours when I go to do the pizza. They should be spread out even more, have a lot of air bubbles. So hang tight. And here is the final dough, how it looks when it's fully raised. Sometimes it'll be spread out even more. You can tell there's some bubble in here. You don't want to release those gases. Try not to as much as possible. And these are ready to go.